Animus came out, and then we toured, did India and Europe, and we were meant to go to America, and COVID hit. We shut down until, late 2020. I would want to say November. Well, I can't remember exactly when the timescale works because it's all a bit of a blur. But we worked on Dead Nest because we were like, yo, we can't just stop this. We need to crack on, you know? And so Dead Nest was part of that process. And then Dead Nest came out and we were starting to think about what else we could do. Not thinking about an album, just more things. And then Olly left. So it was like there was this pre-existing pressure to just not make up for lost time, but just, hey guys, let's try and work out a way to do this remotely through this world. Let's just keep pushing at it because we missed it. We were seeing our peers doing it and realized that actually we can do this. I think we were just focused on sorting our own lives out through the pandemic. Of course, it's a huge part of our life, like with Olly, we were in a band for 10 years together. We basically grew up together on the road. So, obviously it's a massive change, but yeah, it's still hard to get used to,
So after Olly left, we took a bit of a hit because he was a big part of our process and a big part of our sound, but...
It was straight after Dead Nest, actually. I mean, I'm guessing when you're talking about that happening, when he decided that this was no longer for him. Yeah, so immediately after Dead Nest was released, basically within a matter of, it was either weeks or maybe a month or two, I can't actually remember. And it was kind of sideblinding that he was saying to us, I think this is me done. We jumped on the calls immediately. We were like, are you sure? And he was like, been thinking about this for a long time.
Yeah, it's been pretty different without having someone to sort of bounce ideas off, especially when it came to like modifying riffs or changing structures or adding solos and even vocal melodies. So this time we decided, instead of me just writing the music and then passing it around and saying that's done, it was more of a collaborative effort.
It was a shift in dynamics. However, it ended up being sort of a cool shift in dynamics. Me, Browne, Mikey, and Mick Gordon were able to really lock in and crystallize the vision that we had for the album. And as we went along, it just became more and more focused. And I think it was sort of a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, and then it felt like just the right amount. So it was a great starting point for the album. Jumping off from there, we were able to reevaluate the chemistry of the band, and it took us in a direction that we never really expected.
I guess we had to get out of the mindset of something not being finished and then sending it in anyway because someone might have an idea. So we swapped between, like, there might just been an idea that had one or two riffs in it that wasn't even recorded and put drums over it. It might have just been a little video from my phone where I'm like, what do you guys think of this riff? And, occasionally I would get the response like, we don't really know what it's supposed to sound like because there wasn't a drum beat or a click track. But I think if someone had a vision, we were willing to listen to it. So I guess that's how the writing process changed quite dramatically, was that it was just more involvement from everyone rather than just being just me writing a riff, programming drums, playing bass and being like, that's it.
And then, so he left, and then it felt like, I guess I felt a pressure to give Browne instrumental support because he no longer had a guitar writing, companion. Not that he ever needed it. He wrote Gnosis pretty much entirely on his own. But I wanted to make him feel motivated. And Andy was amazing in motivating him because he went through old thrown away demos and found Cardinal Red basically almost finished in this demo form. And he immediately heard the chorus in his head and he just said, finish that, give me a structure. It doesn't need to be the final structure, just give me a sensical song structure and let me work with it. And that really birthed it. Browne knowing that I would give him perspective on the riffs so that he wouldn't get stuck in imposter syndrome and that I could give him ideas to try out when he felt stuck.
Remote work. Yes, it's pretty good. Shrouded in darkness, I remain.
Andy coming in and saying this is going to work really well as a song, give it to me at an earlier stage. We'd never done that. We had to always finish our songs instrumentally first. We've talked about that so much at this point, but that's really the key, was Andy taking a spearhead in the songwriting process and me just being stubborn about, I've got 10 ideas, let's try them all. And then if we don't like one of them, we'll back up. But let's just have some A, B, C versions. Let's just make some choices here. And it worked really well. We got into a great flow.
So Lavos, so do you remember the video I did with the Soldano SLO30? That was actually the second video I filmed for that, because I actually recorded Lavos as a playthrough with the SLO30 at that time. I'd finished the track, I'd reamped it with the Soldano, and I was just gonna release it, because I was like, oh, this only took me like a day to write. Can't be good. So then I presented it to Andy, he's like, nah, I really like this song, I wanna write some vocals to it. So that must have been 6 months before Dead Nest came out. So that was kind of the first song and the beginning song. So it kind of started, I guess, probably about a year into lockdown. When did Dead Nest come out? It came out in 21, didn't it? It did. It was like sort of February, March 21, I want to say. I guess I probably started writing about little bits and pieces about 8 months into lockdown, but I wasn't very inspired. The inspiration happened after really I heard vocals to Lavos and Cardinal Red.
As I recall, the first drum session, we did the Dead Nest video at the same time as the Lavos recording. So that's why the Dead Nest drum video is in the room where we did In Stasis. And at least that was the first of 4 drum sessions we did there.
Hey,
We said blood.
what's your ride like?
We'll take your word for it. It's a loud fucking bell.
No, what did you write down?
Oh, we're not.
I don't think we made a choice on it yet. I think we're going to need to go on a lower one for this.
So you're going to under mic the ride. I think it's that M160 ago.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we have. So we've got a new song, right?
Yeah, I'm going to make one of these, and then we've just gone through the mic list together. We had a few discrepancies, and I've got my favourite mics, and everyone's got their like things they want to try. So, plan of action is go ahead and get everything up.
I'm going to disagree with everything that
You disagree with everything. We record a bunch of stuff. We do another run, change some mics over, and then we've got loads of examples. We'll do some good housekeeping with it, and then we'll select like, this is our favourite combination. So we'll put that all up. We'll probably sleep on that decision, and then tomorrow morning we're like, okay, that is now Monuments 4 drum sound. We'll repeat this.
How do
every
you
time.
feel about knowing that we're going to spend all this time getting these mics for some cunt to come along to trigger it?
I'm going to assume that's not going to make it in there.
No, it is. I want him to know. I want him to know.
Here's how the kit actually sounds.
Yeah.
I know you guys have sound.
Yeah, but the kick drum is like slightly loud, you know what I mean? I'm not really making it, but I know it's good, isn't it? I will say, I think you need to put some moon gel on that fucking snare. Oh my god, what a fucking film. Now, when Dead Nest was released, I was kind of against it because I wanted it to be part of the next record. And without anything else prepped song-wise, I was like, how long is it going to take us to write the rest of the album? So why don't we wait? And, you know, I still, you know, in hindsight, it didn't really matter because we obviously got the album together quite quickly. But at the time, it kind of kicked a fire up my ass. I was like, I need to get this finished, you know? And, yeah, so I think that probably played a part in it. Just like making sure that we didn't lose the momentum that created in the process. Because when we released Animus, which was at the beginning of 2020, that was just meant to introduce Andy to what we were going to do. So there wasn't really a time limit on that because that song had already technically been released on Phronesis. It was like a track that didn't ever make it, but people had heard it. So that one wasn't as fire under my ass. I was like, oh, still got time. I've got a couple of years to write a record. It's fine. I'll get on with it right at the last minute like I would do with homework when I was a kid, and then stress about it, and then everything would turn out all right. And but yeah, I think Dead Nest was like sort of the thing that kicked me up the ass, and especially hearing vocals on Lavos, and then eventually finishing Cardinal Red. And yeah, those two songs I think had vocals fully written maybe a month or two after Dead Nest was released, and then everything else was written in a very short window between April and May till maybe August. And yeah, so a majority of the album was written over a 3-month period.
I guess that was the only pressure though, was that, hang on now, as far as writers, there are only 3 of us in the room now. But it kind of made us have to dig deep and find our skill set and make it work and just support each other. And that birthed the process that made In Stasis work so well.
We had pretty strict deadlines, so for my lyric writing process, I really had to focus and dig deep on what I wanted to say. But fortunately, Browne often writes riffs with a thesis in mind, and he would present that to me. He would say, I was feeling this way, so I wrote these riffs. And you can hear the emotions come out in his guitar parts. So that was a great jumping off point for me. And that sort of ended up making the concept for the album, the idea of being stuck in the middle, balance and equilibrium. I was able to take those ideas and run with it using my own perspective. And that made it a lot easier. So the not having to start from scratch was a good way for me to jumpstart my songwriting process. And me and Browne relate a lot on many levels, many of these personal and emotional levels. So I knew where he was coming from. And I was able to just apply my own experiences to his experiences. And once I did that, it just kind of started flowing out. I'm usually very meticulous with my lyrics, but having Browne's input, I was able to let go a bit and just let it come out.
So yeah, we had Studio A and Studio B of Browne's, and I could sit in Studio B and do my pre-production, where I would just take the song in its kind of written form, it's getting close to completion, but something's missing, and I'll just track drums to it in that B room, which is where we made that Antelope video before, where we did the room tied together. And he could be busy working on another song or just cracking on with riff hard stuff or whatever, and I could just crack on with, that. And when I would drop my mixed drums back into his projects, suddenly the song just got new legs, it got new life.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's one sitting in a room with someone is way easier, and also in many ways way harder. Like, I'm quite a hermit when it comes to writing. I like to have 0 distractions and just like get into that free flowing state, where the music's just coming out. So I had to sort of learn, and he did too. Like, he would know when I'm onto something and try not to make me lose what I had while he was in the room, which it can be difficult, if you're sat behind someone and you come up with a really good idea, you want to voice that opinion. But yeah, like, it was good this time because we were able to bounce ideas. He would let me finish an idea till he presented one, and vice versa. We would let each person have their time to do what they needed without distraction. And I think that's really important.
So we did that early on in a way that, I'd either done one round of programming before, like I did with Lavos to create the crazy parts, or I just went straight into recorded pre-production. So there was either 1 or 2 rounds of drum messing around. And then once we heard what wasn't working on the drums, I didn't then retrack it before the final. I just went, cool, I'm going to change that later because I've gained perspective. I've listened to it in the car to and from. You just need all those days to have different moods and different vibes and reflect back on it a few times to get there. But yes, then we would just go upstairs to the drum tracking room to that amazing studio and have a lot of fun just laying it down and having a good time with it.
When you've got 10,000 cooks in the kitchen, if they all scream at once, then, too many cooks in the kitchen spoils the broth. And sometimes you just have to let each one of them do something individually until it's right. So, yeah.
So post Dead Nest, our writing process changed a little bit. I'd say we used to do it where all the guys would sort of just work out their parts together and then come to me with basically a full finished instrumental. But for the album, we did it in a different way. We all joined up together on Discord, which is a forum where we can all chat and exchange ideas. It was really fluent. John Browne would just send a riff or two, and then Mikey could weigh in on it, and I could weigh in on it and be like, maybe we could take it here or in this direction. And we were all able to contribute to structural changes, which was really nice. It felt like we weren't just doing the guitar player does his duties and the drummer does his duties. It was like we were all collaborating on each other's instruments, and that was fun, and it felt like it added a cohesive level to the process.
That definitely happened. Cardinal Red. So Cardinal Red didn't have that parallel modulation in it until Andy's vocals came in, and he said, guys, I really want to change to this note, and it just didn't work because it was the major third, which wasn't in any of it. It was, the minor third. So we had to, I got his vocal track, placed it over the top, cut out the chords that didn't really work and started just playing around. And eventually playing around, I had no idea that it was going to be the parallel major, just the chords that worked with what he was doing that made it sound bigger. So there was quite a few sort of changes to that chorus until we settled on this one. Yeah, and it was by total accident. In fact, actually, I think I'd recorded like me just jamming it, and then I forgot what I'd played and I had to rework it out. But that's kind of how that happened, yeah. So Andy said, I want this vocal line, make it work. And obviously I got all bothered and flustered because, people with autism, I'm slightly autistic probably, that I just get angry when I'm asked to change something. So yeah, I did my little quarrel, and then eventually I was just like, yeah, let's just give this a try then. And then I did, and it turned out way better. So yeah.
Yeah, so for one idea, I brought the keyboard along just to see if I could come up with something. We were going to make an outro, but we didn't feel like it was resonating with the album. Browne thought it was pretentious. I think it had legs. I just don't think we had time to explore it, which is a shame. But it's still there. It could make sense for a future record.
Each of us having our own time to prepare certain things, and then we come together to see if anyone has any additional ideas. Like just from having Andy's vocals not only changing the melodies of what was going on in the guitar and bass, but also what was happening on the drums and trying to accent certain elements within the drums. Something that we'd never done before. So it made the whole song sound a lot more cohesive because things were grabbing onto each other. Like guitar lines at the ends of phrases were changed so that they worked better with the vocal melody. And not to say that the vocal melody always dictated what the guitar or the drums were doing. We'd actually, sometimes say to Andy, no, you need to catch that bit so that it's like cool. He'd catch that bit and he'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. So I think that just being open to suggestions in this method was way better way to work. The album definitely turned out better than anything we've done, in my opinion anyway. So definitely more songy. Yeah.
And getting Mick was even more sick because he was doing the same thing, helping us with structural ideas and melodies, and everyone's input was very active. Yeah, the collaboration felt like a domino effect. It would be like one member would present an idea and then that would spark an idea with another band member. And we would just go back and forth for a while until we felt like we had something strong. And then from there, it was just tiny little revisions. I would present my vocals, and then that would create new ideas for the songs as well. For instance, Cardinal Red, I have that, the beginning with the singing verse, and then Browne and Mikey were like, oh, this would be sick to bring it back at the end of the song. And that's something that I never would have thought of without them. So everyone had a hand in each other's parts, and that was sick. Having Mick Gordon was a dream come true and pretty surreal. He's been a friend of Browne's for a while, and being able to utilize that connection was awesome. There's been a lot of times in this band where I was like, is this really my life? Am I getting to work with these people? And having Mick Gordon was definitely no exception. Playing the Doom games and then hearing that influence, that same style, come into the Monuments album was epic. And Mick is also just a really cool guy, super chill, super easy to work with. And yeah, it definitely leveled up our sound.
So I messaged him after the original Doom came out. So obviously Doom 2016, I think it came out. And
so it all started when I met John in a gay bar.
He probably, you know, the soundtrack is phenomenal. It was so phenomenal, actually. I actually wrote a song based off what he did, which was on the Flux Conduct second album called Biohate. I was so inspired by this soundscape that he created, and I thought it was a perfect fit for Doom. So randomly, I was just like, I need to tell this guy just how great he is. So I sent him an email. And I sent him an email, and he was like, oh man, I'm a massive fan of what you do as well. And it was like kind of shocking that he had actually heard of what I'd done.
See, it was Australia Day, and they were playing in Brisbane, and it was a Monday, and it was the only place open. So we literally corresponded in a gay bar. Our first meeting was in a gay bar. And over a few beers and a few drinks and all that sort of thing, we just sort of got chatting and stuff like that. And I'd been chatting with John, you know, via Facebook and stuff like that for a little while, and we just sort of rolled in similar circles. And I think what inspires me with music inspires John with music as well. And so, you know, like one of those beautiful things that sometimes happens is you get these two kindred spirits that are both traveling on their own path through the universe, but just converge at the, you know, together because of our journeys are being fed by those shared interests and shared inspirations.
Because obviously, you know, when you think of composers at that level, this Hans Zimmer, you know, that does AAA games, and you know.
So yeah, we got chatting, and I got to see them perform a instrumental show. So it was just the three of the guys playing, and it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. Actually, it was four guys. Sorry, it was four. It was when Olly was still there, and man, just watching them do an instrumental set for an hour and a bit was just incredible, seeing those guys play live. So I'm a huge fan of John. I'm a huge fan of Mike. I'm a huge fan of Andy. I'm a huge fan of Adam. Yeah, brilliant group of guys.
Yeah, that then birthed Mick, can you do the rest of the record? And then Andy going, so how is that song Cardinal Red coming along? Because it was already basically called that. Or I think it was called, no, that was right. It was called The Cardinal. That was just because Browne wrote to that brief in his head. And then we started talking about deadlines with management and with the label, and we re-signed into Century Media. That happened, and that was a beautiful process. So we just started fresh with a newfound life and just went, cool, this is the thing. And then as the deadline loomed, we just had to speed up. And then, yeah, we went in with one song done, which was Lavos. Then the process started. Recorded the drums for Cardinal and Cimmerian, funnily enough, both together on the second session. Then in the third one, I think we did Swan, which was makeshift harmony. Did we do Stoic, which was false then? Did we do Archescence then? Basically, the rest of them just got split between two mega sessions where I basically lived in, you know, the area of Yorkshire near Browne for a month, and we did like a week and a half writing, and then 4 days in the studio, and then back to the writing room for another week, and then back into the studio. And No One Will Teach You got written in that last week between the two drum sessions. In 4 days, we went from a couple of throwaway riffs to a song. It was nuts. I can't believe how quickly that one came out and how happy we are with it. So that's a whole bunch of different long and short form writing sessions just brewed that album. But pressure really worked for us. I think we all work really well under pressure.
But yeah, there's a couple of composers, and you know, I put them on a pedestal, like, you know, the guy that composed the Game of Thrones soundtrack and stuff. And you see those, you know, those musicians on this pedestal because they've written this absolutely iconic piece of music, but they're just normal people, like you and me, you know. It's like, and just hearing that back from Mick sort of affirmed that, maybe I'm not doing something completely wrong if he already knows what it is. And sometimes I think that guitar players, musicians, and everyone in general just forgets that there's people at that level that still enjoy music, and there's a chance that they've probably heard you. So yeah, I mean, emailing Mick, him telling me that, we just ended up becoming friends. And then when we played in Australia in 2000, and I want to say it was 2018, the last time we went, Mick actually came to the Brisbane show. We had a beer, hung out for a little bit. He came to the show, super stoked about it, loved the set. And ever since then, I've just been chatting to him, you know, like we chat about everything, you know, not just music as well, like, you know, just how you would if you were a friend of someone, you know, just anything. So I asked him, hey, we asked him to do the backing tracks on Phronesis. But then Doom Eternal happened and he couldn't do it anymore. So
for me, it's been tricky for the last 15, 16 years. It's just been like project to project to project to project. So my mental construction of time is so warped. I really can't put years together. I know certain things have happened in the last 15, 16 years, but I couldn't tell you like what year it was and all that sort of thing. But I remember we got talking about doing some stuff together, probably like 2016, maybe 2015, something like that. It was a number of years ago. But I couldn't quite fit it in with the amount of work and things that was coming along. So, but then later on, like earlier in 2022, what year is it? It's 23. It was last year, wasn't it? Yeah. Earlier in 2022, I got chatting with John, and we're geeking out about some of the ideas and things that these guys were having with the album.
I asked him again, hey, do you want to do Lavos? And he said, yeah, I'm down. Did it, and then we realized very quickly that the rest of the album was not going to sound very good without Mick Gordon on it.
You know, just got started talking, and it really, the whole process was really kind of organic from there. It just sort of started happening. He'd just send me some songs, and I sent him some stuff back, and he'd send me some more things, and we'd have a chat over WhatsApp at like God all knows what sort of hours of the night, and you know, I'd send him some snippets of synth stuff, and he'd send me some ideas, and it was just a back and forth.
Sometimes we would send him the space. We had an idea of what to fill the space with, and we would tell him, hey, in this bit, this is what we want you to do, which was awesome because we felt like it was really cool to send him those demos with space, and then he would fill them in with either things that we said, hey, go nuts, do whatever you want to do here, or we'd say we want some kind of like thematic background drums, or we want a kind of a riser, or we could just kind of give him an energy or an emotion, and he would come up with a sonic way of showing that emotion. But sometimes he cut the song up and suggested new kind of structures and threw ideas around. He did it with Somnus a bunch. He cut up the middle section where the energy was kind of lacking, and the bridge sort of went on this tangent that the song never really energetically recovered from, and he made like the little riser with the vocal effect that goes into the breakdown, and the breakdown that he gave was just a cut up of the ending. So before recording the drums to that song, I jumped in and just tracked some new guitar riff for the breakdown, and then just jumped on the drums straight afterwards. So
I said, John said, oh, what do you want to do for the album? I'm like, oh man, I'll do whatever, you know, I'll do whatever. I think it'd be cool. I'd love to get involved as much as possible. And we started talking about like, you know, how that could work. And I was like, you know what I'd really love more than anything in the world is a purple John Browne mayonnaise 7-string signature model. That's the most thing. Like if you could hook me that, that's better than any payment. That's better than anything at all, right? A guitar in the hand is worth so much more to me. And so through John's connections and stuff like that, he hooked me up with a guitar. So yeah, I literally, you know, did the whole album for a guitar, which is, you know, is to me is worth incredible amounts because that guitar now has that story imprinted on it forever. And it came along right at the perfect time too. It's an absolutely lovely instrument. And I love it to death, and I've used it on a bunch of records and things already. It holds tuning and stuff really well. Like John really went to town with the design of that guitar, and it's just it's perfect for the type of sort of music that we make. So yeah, that's that story.
So I was like, hey, do you want to just do the whole record? And he was like, yeah, I've got time, I'm down. And he sees it as like these pockets of inspiration because, you know, some of these game projects last for 10 years for him. So the fact that he was so willing to do it and so quickly and spent hours on it is actually incredible, you know? Didn't have to do that, but he did make the record better. And he's a lovely human being.
Yeah, man, John's probably gotten... He sent me teasers first of him playing it, and which I was blown away because it mean he actually touched it as well. It wasn't just like a fresh one with plastic still on it. No, he'd actually had it out of the case and he'd played it as well. So we'd made some like announcement video that, you know, was going to be working with the guys on the project, and that's him playing my guitar, or the guitar he gave me, I should say, in that video.
How's it going?
Dude, I've written the sickest fucking riff. You need to check this out.
Hear it.
Fucking hell, it's fucking sick. I can't wait to show you. Huh? Huh? Awful. I like it. Spent so long on that. Fuck.
Dude, we have got to find someone to help us like make this not suck.
Hey guys, what's going on?
I guess to summarize, sometimes he had a brief, sometimes he changed the process himself. I think that was the best part about it, is that no idea was a bad idea. And because we had such well-organized communication through our internal kind of Discord server that was very well-organized, he could say, hey, I've got this idea, drop a WAV file in there, be like, what do you think if I try this thing? And we could be like, that's cool, I don't particularly like that idea.
The guys set up a Discord server to chat about the album, and he invited me into that Discord. And what blew me away about the Monuments guys is I expected their shared Discord to just be like, you know, some catastrophic wasteland of memes and jokes and bad pictures and all that sort of stuff, like just, you know, just proper shit posting sort of stuff. But man, what blew me away is there was nothing like that at all. It was super pro. Everything was pro. Everything about these guys is just pro from top to bottom. It's just all about the music and all about the focus. And I love that too. I just loved being able to completely like focus on direct communication about creative ideas. So that was really cool. So we communicated via Discord, and yeah, it just kind of all grew from there.
And there's this infamous fly sound that used to be at the end of Opiate, and the guitar riff kind of fades into a weird thing, but before it just kind of faded out, it sort of morphed into flies, like flies buzzing around a bin. And Andy, the misophonia, he just couldn't handle it in like headphones especially. He was like, it just sounded like there was a fly buzzing his ear, and it really tweaked him out. So some things like that we definitely had to tweak the process of, but
yeah, there was a couple of moments of that actually, and I even said to him, if there's a part where you want a guitar taken out or you think it's too busy, just say. So the chorus of No One Can Teach You was completely different harmonically until he said, why don't you change this chord to this chord? The Arc Essence chorus, because he was hearing this Phantom of the Opera style thing over the top of it, he was like, yeah, let's remove some of the guitars that were in there, you know, that were creating some interlocking sort of chords within the harmony. So we removed some of those, and there was other bits as well where like the bass part in False Providence on the first verse, like we really wanted to make that a feature, so he basically took the bass DI and processed it in a certain way. And there was other parts where he did that, where it was like, oh yeah, you don't need to do that, just do this. So it was good to get that, you know, from a different set of ears. But one thing he did say to us is that he loved the fact that we knew exactly where we were going. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's just all guesswork. It's music, isn't it? It's just all guessing. So, yeah.
But But John's guitar parts, man, just they're so intricate and they're so well thought out. And I have always respected John as a musician, but I gained a whole new level of respect for him once I started figuring out what he was doing and transcribing his stuff and working out what tuning he was playing in and what sort of finger positions that would lead to. And I've always thought of John as a very much a rhythmic player, right? He would say that he's a rhythmic player, he's not a lead player. But if you listen to his guitar parts and if you transcribe those parts, you will see it is endless, beautiful melodies. They're just absolutely stunning intervals and melodic lines and motifs that are just riddled through these riffs. So yes, it's rhythmic music, rhythmic guitar parts, but it's so melodic. It's stunning to listen to. It's stunning to work out too. It really blew me away. And I stole a bunch of those ideas too. I've been going through and going, hey, that's a really cool way to kind of get back into this thing and that thing. He's so down to earth as well. That's the great thing about Mike. He's very, very approachable, and it was quite interesting talking to him about that sort of stuff. He wasn't very much into the whole feeling of music, which was quite fascinating. John and I can talk about the feelings behind music all day, but Mike was thought very much in a different way about music, and it was great because like I felt each part of these sort of things with the band, everybody was like really adding their part to bring up with a giant whole. You know what I mean? You don't just want to have like 5 people that are all just thinking exactly the same way. You want to have everybody thinking in a different way. And so appreciate that about Mike as well.
He was a mastermind at coming up with some of those inter-song sounds, like what happens at the beginning of Arch Essence with the videotape and the whole, hey, I care about you a lot. That's so unexpected, but when you listen to it, it puts you in a world that energetically fits the song so perfectly. And the intro to Opiate is just like iconic now. So yeah, I love the way that man hears things and shows the world what he's hearing. It's amazing. I would love to be able to call him a 5th member, but ultimately I'm just stoked to hopefully one day actually, meet the guy in person. We've had so many Skype chats and whatnot. Just give the guy a hug for everything he's done. Such an amazing human. We just had this one song. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. And in the process of mixing and creating Lavos, that was where we first heard mix stuff. That was where we first decided on a mix engineer. We took all of our stems and sent it to a bunch of different people. We were kind of shooting out mix engineers, seeing how they would respond to it.
Yeah, it was more just the fact that it was organic as well. Like the fact that he'd done it so quickly. We sent it to him, and on the same day, within 2 or 3 hours, he sent the test mix. So that to us was like, oh, this guy actually wants to work with us. Like we were hassling some of the other mixers for weeks to get as a test mix. And I get it, people are busy. There was another person we wanted a test mix from, but his management turned it down, which was really disappointing because I still really like the guy's mixes.
We tried a few people and it was working, but it wasn't resonating at its full potential. And George just came in immediately with a whole bunch of amazing questions. What do you mean by you want the guitars more aggressive? Asking me, what are your favorite kick drums, your favorite snares? What's your favorite sounding drummer, and what do you want this to be like? Just realized, how can you ever have someone mix your material without telling them what makes you tick? If you tell them, then they're going to nail it first time round. You're going to be like, this is better than anything I've heard, because it's like, it's working straight off the bat. So.
But I think we kind of struck gold with George, because I think ultimately what you want as a producer is the person to want to do it, because then I think the end product turns out better, because they really want it. It's almost like, when you when you would pick a member for a band, you wouldn't necessarily go for the most famous and maybe the best guitar player. You go with the person that has the drive to want to do it.
There was a lot of handing things back as quickly as possible in order to go like, is this right or is this right? And then work through that revision process as quickly as possible. It probably resulted in something more unique as a result of it, because there was a lot more trust put in me rather than it being a case of being, I don't know. I don't know what the normal Monuments thing looks like or sounds like, but some bands can want to micromanage and want to go down the pit of revisions, but it was quite nice to only need to do, I think I only did 2, maybe 1 or 2 revisions. So I think it came out pretty cool.
We were on a time crunch, and there wasn't really a lot of resources for us to exercise in regards to hiring editors and stuff like that. Luckily, I'm experienced with recording my own vocals. I've done it so much that I know my own voice really well, and I don't trust a lot of people editing my parts. So we did send, we tried, we experimented with some editors, and it just wasn't coming out right. So I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this. I think that I can take this responsibility.
Yeah, what really blows me away by Andy is that he's very prolific. So he's got like a billion bands that he's in, and he's always on tour, but he's always in the studio, but he's always on Twitch, but he's always on tour, he's always releasing albums, but he's always in another band. Do you know what I mean? He's like that guy. And you're like, dude, he's doing that, and I'm just sitting on the couch going, man, how do you do all that? That's amazing. Yeah, Andy's really cool. We got into some pretty deep discussions with subtext and concepts behind some of these songs. And whenever you're like, you can geek out on the guitar stuff all day and you can geek out on the drum stuff all day, but when it comes to talking about lyrics and stuff like that, that's when you're really getting a window into somebody's deeper part of their soul, right? And so they're in a very vulnerable position, and I feel that vocalists are kind of used to getting into a vulnerable position because they're really opening themselves up to the world. And I very much enjoyed that inspiration coming from Andy, where he write these songs with some pretty deep lyrics and pretty dark themes and pretty like serious topics, right? And there's a bit of a tendency in everything else in life to shy away from that stuff. And when you get an opportunity in music to kind of explore those themes, you have to kind of go full into it and go, okay, today I'm going to explore this piece of trauma that we've had locked up away in the backs of our minds. And today we're going to explore it. We can't shy away from it. We're going to explore it. We're going to feel it. We're going to think about it. And then we're going to find ways to express it musically so other people in the world can kind of get that hint of catharsis that we're trying to get at that moment. And so that's what I really appreciated with Andy, is a lot of those lyrics are very kind of introspective in a way and very personal, which I quite liked.
So yeah, I recorded and edited all of my own vocals. I was able to do a lot of it on Twitch, which was sick, because I could live stream my process, and the fans felt like they were part of the creative process too. It was a cool, intimate experience. No more than 50 to 100 people at a time, so it wasn't like being blasted across the universe. But when that stuff was released, I feel like those close followers felt like they had a hand in the album, and that was sick. And they inspired me to keep going, and it made those 10-hour sessions fly by a lot easier. So I'm really glad with the way things turned out, and I was happy to edit my own parts. I'm really proud that I was able to do that as well, not just contributing as a vocalist, but as an editor and a producer as well. It feels like a really big achievement.
So it was more Andy got priority, because I had no relationship with Andy and I had a relationship with Browne where if I was fucking it, I knew that Browne would go, mate. But I didn't have a relationship with Andy, so I knew that if I presented something in a way that wasn't to his liking, I wanted to be able to give him the opportunity to be like, oh, actually, it's like this. Where, because I didn't know Andy so well, I didn't know whether he would feel comfortable coming to me when there was a time crunch on if something was getting like missed. I knew that Browne would be fine, so I didn't have to consider that too much. I was more thinking about if I get Andy's presentation in the way that it needs to be, and he's happy with it, I know that the rest of everything should fall into place pretty easily.
I guess when you're working with a mix engineer, they kind of need to see if they can handle your neuroses and your inner process and see if like the way you do things isn't too extreme for them or not. Obviously, we're not a bunch of nutcases, but you know, we're quite particular about what we like. One of the things that I did love about George so much was that he said, as a fan, there is not a consistent sound with Monuments yet. I have not experienced consistency between your records, and I think that you have more to give. I want to help you breed consistency. If we do this one, please consider that we're building the first in a series of a new consistent sound and a new consistent world. And that is the biggest gift he could have given to us. And that makes me really excited about working with him in the future, because I never thought about what that inconsistency is like to the fans. I just thought I know what it's about for me, and I'm just excited to have this new feeling kind of final form, just trying it as it goes. So I really appreciated him for that.
Yeah, I didn't really have to think about the drums. Like, just did the thing. I think it was more like Mike is always great. Mike was great on that record, and it's not taking it for granted. It was just really greatly appreciated the amount of attention to detail all the setup and stuff had gone to, because the album was tracked over multiple sessions. But if I wasn't told that, I wouldn't have known. So that was really, really important and really useful, because I think if anything had gone wrong, consistency-wise, that album wouldn't have gotten done in the time frame that I was given it to do.
George Lever is fucking sick, and he also communicated super well within the Discord. He was just as involved as everybody else was in the project, so we were able to bounce ideas off George as well, and he had such a vision already as we were sending the demos for what he wanted, and it aligned with my vision too. It was such a relief to not have to take control of the mixing, and he mixed the album how he wanted to, and it brought a whole new life to the music. Let's see, what else to say about George? He's just a delightful guy. He knows what the fuck he's doing, and he's a man with a vision.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
So it wasn't like we were just working with a mixing engineer who was doing, tell me what to do and, do exactly that. It was like, this is our general idea of where we want it to go, take it and run with it. And then he would come back with some really cool ideas and stuff that we never would have thought of ourselves. In the past, a lot of Monuments has been very self-produced and mixed, especially the first two records were all done by John Browne. So having George's special ear created a whole new dynamic. And yeah, he's just fucking sick at what he does and a really chill guy, easy to work with, fun to work with. It kept our spirits up, and we knew we could trust him to get a really great, meaty, heavy, but also dynamic, flowing sound. And he did just that. It was sick.
George is too smart, man. He's like, it kind of really makes you feel like you're a few notches down on the evolutionary scale. You know what I mean? Like I feel George is the N one, and like we go back to like the chimpanzee when you're chatting to George. He mixed In Stasis really quickly too. I think he got onto that really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, we would send him songs as they got completed so that he had a little bit more time. So the first one we sent to him was outside of Lavos on Cardinal, which was finished beforehand, was Arc Essence, because it was one of the busiest ones. So we decided, yeah, let's get that one to George first, because if he can nail that one, then the rest will probably just slot into place a lot easier. And he spent about 4 or 5 days refining that. Just to make sure that he got it right, because there was a lot of layers in that song. I mean, from what I remember, most of Mick's tracks were 60 plus tracks of different sounds. And that's not like 60 tracks constantly playing. It's like 60 different noises happening over the course of the song. And that could be like sub drops. It could be something as simple as like a little, in one thing. Or maybe it was his Polyvox making some disgusting guitar-related noise that was... So yeah, it was just that one was pretty dense, especially with that big Phantom of the Opera chorus bit. So yeah, we sent that to George. He got us a test mix. When we all approved the mix on Arc Essence, then we moved on to the rest. And then at that point, because the sort of tonal quality of the album was defined, anything else would have been mainly levels and maybe changing certain attributes, like the fact that the song might be in a different key or the guitars are tuned lower or higher. And that can sort of influence a little bit to what's actually happening in the sort of chemistry of the album.
It's pretty common now to get additional parts on top of a band performance. The thing that makes what Mick does different is that there's an awful lot of consideration going on, not just for what's happening musically, but who's going to receive it after he's done. A lot of mistakes that I get presented with in other mixing scenarios is when someone believes that just because they did something it makes them great, or just because they could think of adding lots and lots of layers it makes them a genius, but there's no logic to how they fit together sonically or harmonically or texturally.
So very rarely would they ever say, hey, do this or do that, or it's not like directorial. It's very much intuitive, and we all share similar intuitions, but we just interpret those intuitions in different ways. And so what I mean by that is it gets really comfortable with just sending some stuff to each other and then trusting that the other person is going to come up with something that hopefully benefits the song. It doesn't always benefit the song, of course. That has to be, that whole process as well. But you'd be surprised how little communication actually occurred because it was really intuitive. And so on Opiate, he sent me some of the stuff that he was doing, and the scales and stuff that he was using just gave me a lot of imagery. And I was picturing, Saharan deserts and wind-swept sand and, dry sort of flavors and things like this. And I think we'd even all gone and seen Dune at the time, and it felt very Dune-esque. And so it just felt like that. I felt my role on the project with these guys was really just to dig into the kind of tapestry of the songs, the core message underneath it all, and find ways sonically to bring that out more. You've got great guitar, bass, drums, vocals, etc. You've got that there already. So my job is just to kind of fill in the backdrop, fill in the story, and find different ways to kind of illustrate the underlying subtext that might be there. And that is, represented in all sorts of different parts. But yeah, you can definitely hear that at the start of the Opiate track for sure.
And it was quite obvious with each part that was being presented from Mick to me alongside the band stuff, what the provided role was and what was being added to. It was really nice because it was also shown in a way that going from a producer to another producer, that it's like, if you don't like this, it can come down. If you like it, it can go up. There was no sort of nothing was done in such a way that it could only take on one shape.
So for the mastering, George did actually recommend Jens. We didn't want to just choose a mastering engineer because the mix-master interaction is very personal and there's a lot of technical communication that needs to happen there. We could have just picked someone that we like the masters of, but we don't know what that mix engineer did. We know that the mastering doesn't redo the process, it builds upon it. So it didn't make sense for me to pick a mastering engineer with a great name or who'd mastered a great sounding mix when I don't know what the difference is in the production. I knew what we were doing was pretty unique. To have this particular kind of natural drum sound, live amps, Monuments vibe with Mick Gordon in there, with George focusing on musicality as much as power. So when he recommended Jens, he said, this is the guy who can give you the best power with the most musicality. So you've got dynamics, you've got breathing room, but you've got all the energy that you need. And the first master we heard, we were just like, holy heck. It was just perfect.
Honestly, I'm superstitious. So Jens mastered Loathe and he mastered the first Sleep Token album that I did, and those did really well. He also mastered Thornhill, and that's done really well. And it's just a case of superstition, just not changing anything because I didn't want to have to overly think. So it's a trust thing. I knew that he works in our world more so than anything else, so I knew that he would understand some of the cues maybe more so than someone else might. Don't know. But predominantly superstition. Yeah. I'm not a very superstitious person, but that, I was like, nope, not changing that.
Actually, that's something I learned from Mick in an interview he made in 2016 at the Games Developer Conference. I love the YouTube video from that, because that whole thing is about change your process to change the outcome. So because our process was all about finding the best match for George to achieve an idea that we had, we weren't trying to force any other sound into that process. We were just going with where we came from. And because of that, we came to this point that was unique sounding at the end, but it ticked all the boxes in our heads. And it doesn't sound like much else that I've heard. It stands out pretty like uniquely. I love that. So I'm definitely learned from that that's the way to go. Like, never try to get to a new place by doing the same thing as you've done before. Just tweak the process. It's really not that scary. It can go wrong, but mistakes help. They breed new possibilities.
Fuck this. Fuck you too. Yeah, I mean, we all get along really well. We're always open to listening to people's ideas. If someone's very strong about something that they really don't feel, we listen to that. You know, if someone like says this is a terrible idea and feels really strongly about it, democracy kind of gets thrown out the window, because we don't want someone to be unhappy. Do you know what I mean? If they really don't want to do it, it's like, okay, maybe we're not thinking about something here. Maybe we need to discuss it a little bit more. And the same goes vice versa. If there's two people that are really into it and two that aren't, we will listen out to it. So the environment is great because we can just discuss things like human beings do. It's always weird that that's like a thing that a lot of bands don't communicate, and we've been really bad at it for years. But over the last few years, everyone's just opened up and just been completely honest, and I think that that's always a good thing. If people can just be like, all right, yeah, I'm not into that, or no, that's a terrible idea, or no, that sucks, no, that's great, and be open about that stuff. Or if something's pissing you off and you're just completely honest about it, then if it's a small thing, then it's out the way. Then you don't have to worry about it. It's not in your brain ticking away saying, when's this person gonna fucking piss me off again? You know, which, you know, we do as humans. You do it with your brothers, you do it with your sisters, you do it with your friends. I think just being open and talking about it so it doesn't like rupture into this needless thing. So yeah, going forward now, like we're completely honest with each other, which gives us the opportunity to try all this creative freedom where, like, for example, Somnus, Mike wrote all of it, you know, and then I changed everything when I recorded the guitars because I couldn't play it. And he was fine with it, you know, that's the thing, he was fine with it. And the same goes for, you know, parts that I wrote on drums that he wanted to change. It's fine, it doesn't matter, just let people be creative and see what happens. So that's the positive thing about it. We will never shoot anyone's idea down. It might just not have been captured properly, or maybe we just need to try something else. But yeah.
I was really nervous about releasing the album because this was my first full-length record with the band, and I knew that I had elements to my own voice that could properly supplement what they used to do, but I also had elements that I wanted to bring that were fresh and new. And I was kind of unsure how the fans would take it. There's always a little bit of self-doubt when approaching that and being the new vocalist. But the response has been so relieving and super heartwarming to me. I feel very, very welcomed by the fans, by Mikey and Browne and Swanee and Mick and George Lever.
It feels great. Like, it's awesome that people care about the noise you write, because, you know, ultimately we're quite selfish in the fact that what comes first is that we enjoy the music. I know that there's some bands that probably don't think about that stuff. They're like, oh, this is the breakdown bit where everyone will kick each other in the pit. No, we don't do that thing. We literally say, how does this make us feel? Does it explain what we're trying to explain? So the fact that people want to go on that journey with us, where we're writing music for ourselves, is great. But when it comes to, you know, everyone else liking it, I'm just really appreciative. You know, it's awesome that people care about the music that's been created and it speaks to them.
honestly flabbergasted by the way that the audience has responded to this. The passion and the advocation they seem to have for us it was always pretty nuts. Like, fans were always really amazing fans, and they cared a lot, and they dived deep into the lore with us. But when we played those first notes after In Stasis' release in, I think it was Manchester, you just stood on that stage and you could feel there was something special. You know, there was just something like, oh, we've really struck a chord with these people. All these people really are like, they're hyper resonating with this. And I guess it was completely by accident, because the song kind of has a lot of pandemic-esque themes in it, but we didn't mean to write about that. I guess that was just how we were feeling. So we've all come together on that feeling really nicely, I think. I think the imagery as well made that super powerful. And
yeah, I mean, I've seen like, it feels like 99% positivity and growth and just excitement over the new direction that we're heading. And that makes me feel really secure with my position in the band. And I feel rejuvenated and confident and proud and ready to hit the next thing full force without doubt in my mind. And it just felt like I solidified my place in the band. And I'm really grateful to the fans for welcoming me, giving me such a warm welcome. I'm really grateful to the band. And it's just, it's such a relief and a cathartic experience to release this album and have such a warm welcome to it.
And the fact that they didn't lose faith in anything that we've done with, member changes and stuff like that. I mean, it is life, sometimes people's goals in life change. And, I can't ever tell anyone or convince anyone that they should stay in a band if they want to do something else. I respect that, the fact that someone would have dedicated X amount of years to want to do this is great. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that still believes in what we're doing. And, we've got some more things coming up. We'll keep writing some riffs, and hopefully it won't change completely from what we originally were doing. So, but yeah, In Stasis. It was really fun to write. I enjoyed the process. Can't wait to play some more of it live.
I love the way the artwork looks. I love the worlds that Visual Amnesia and Serpent Tusk Studios both managed to create and intertwine. They've made this world that George also made, and now I feel like we have a universe in which we can kind of have things build upon and be canon, whereas before, the world of Gnosis is like a whole different idea to what Amanuensis is, storytelling-wise, which is very different from what Phronesis is like as a record, in terms of kind of being story-led, but also just being riff-central. This just feels like a new beginning for us, and I can't wait to see what it's like to enter the writing room trying to, I wouldn't necessarily say best it or compare anything to it. More likely I'm excited to build upon it and see what happens as a result of the context that we now have had writing it and releasing it.
So writing In Stasis felt very much like a trial, dipping our feet into fresh waters. We didn't really know how it was gonna go, and we learned so much from the process. It was definitely a big time crunch, but it also taught us how to work together in a really streamlined and effective way. So I think that approaching new music is gonna be a lot more comfortable and easy for us. We've got stuff in the works, ranging from old to new, rejuvenating what Monuments means to us and what Monuments means to our fans, and creating a hybrid of old vibes and new vibes. I'm really excited for that.
And also all the videos, having them released as part of the singles, we've now don't just have imagination in our videography, we've got physical videos we can see, we can release more of, we can make new things happen with that. And to walk into an album process with those visual cues, I never could have dreamt of having anything like that. And I'm really excited about what that's gonna mean for the music.
If 4 is their best accepted record, then it means that 5 should be equal, if not better, because then that relationship is further cemented. So, hope so. I mean, if they fire me, it's their problem.
I think everything that we learned during this album process is something that we can take in stride and use it for the next effort. We've already been bouncing around ideas, and we've got the Discord going again. So yeah, we're just really excited to start writing. That's the thing, is that although it was a stressful time crunch, it was also really fun. We learned a lot about ourselves. We learned a lot about each other, and now that's in our arsenal. And I'm sure there'll be new challenges writing a new record, but we have so much we have a lot of confidence in our process, so we can take that further and experiment with new things. And yeah, I'm just really excited to hit it with a fresh mindset and use all the skills that we developed prior.
We'll probably feel a bit of pressure, and I think that's good, because I think the In Stasis writing process showed us that setting a hard deadline that seems not manageable and then just trusting in whatever we come up with is going to lead to something good pretty quickly. I think it's going to be great, but we'll just have to wait and see and hope that we enjoy the process, I guess.
Oh, I'd jump at the chance to work with Monuments again, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it was such a great experience the first time around, and I'd love to work with those guys again, for sure. For me, future is video game stuff. So I have a horror game coming out. I have a very crazy kind of Soviet punk game coming out, which is kind of crazy. I have a shooter thing coming out, which hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, it's just games. For my next 2 years, it's just focused solely on games at the moment. But I do love doing the music stuff, and I love exploring musical ideas away from the connection that has to be stuck to a video game. You know what I mean? With a lot of video game stuff, you really have to make sure that it's absolutely got to fit the game. Whereas when we're doing a song, you can kind of go off and explore those ideas that you'd love to explore more in a video game, but you kind of can't because you've got to fit within that. With music, we can do that. And so yeah, I'd love to get a chance to work with John and the guys again, for sure.
For real. Yeah, now that it's out and that people are hearing it and the response is so powerful, I think it might be a bit of time before we sit and go, all right, what's next? At the same time, the longer we leave it, I don't think there's any negative to giving it some time, because the more difference in who we are is from who we were when we made those equals the more perspective and, I guess, distance in terms of the kind of dimension that we can have in how we reference it. If we change a little bit between records, we can then come at it from a different angle. The closer we are to who we were when we did that, I think the more similar it will sound. And I don't know, I kind of want to stay progressive, kind of feel like we started progressive, so we can't really be faithful to that journey and, rinse and repeat. So, but we're really excited to do it again and build upon that process. It's going to be great. We'll probably change a lot of things though, just because we did that before and it worked well. Some things will stay the same, but we'll just have to see.
Positive moving forward. Let's write some more music.